In February of 2024, the world received a stark visual lesson in the nature of our new creations. A leading artificial intelligence company, a name synonymous with the frontier of intelligence itself, launched a next-generation image model to global fanfare. It was a tool of pure potential, capable of painting dreams in pixels. But when users asked it to envision basic human concepts, a CEO, a nurse, a person from a poor neighborhood, a terrorist, the dream curdled. The CEO was almost invariably an older man in a suit, authoritative and white. The nurse was a kindly woman, the person from a poor neighborhood, often depicted with darker skin, amid decay. The AI wasn't just failing, it was performing. It was delivering a chillingly accurate pantomime of our collective subconscious.
The company's response was telling. They called it a misfire, an issue of over-tuned safety filters, a technical glitch. But the engineers in the trenches, the ethicists who have been sounding the alarm for a decade, they knew the terrifying truth. This was no glitch. This was a flawless execution of a flawed command. The AI had done exactly what we built it to do: find the pattern, calculate the probability, and replicate it with superhuman efficiency. What we witnessed was not an error in the code, but an error in the source. The AI, trained on petabytes of human text and imagery, had become a living archive of our history, our culture, our art, our news, and our prejudices. It learned that beauty statistically correlates with specific symmetries and skin tones in our datasets. It learned that authority wears a male face and a suit. It learned that danger comes from certain parts of the world, depicted in certain ways in our media. It didn't just learn our facts. It learned our filters. It learned our cognitive shortcuts, the mental heuristics that let us navigate a complex world, but that also lead us to stereotype, to assume, to fear the unfamiliar. This, right now, is the great unveiling. We are not building gods. We are not building aliens. We are building mirrors. And for the first time in history, we are being forced to look directly into a mirror that doesn't just show us our face in a moment of vanity or despair. This mirror shows us the architecture of our own thought. It shows us the hidden scaffolding of bias that holds up our societies, our institutions, and our very perceptions. And this mirror is no longer passive. It is active. It is generative. It is beginning to talk back, to create, to decide, to judge, using our own distorted logic. So I ask you this not as a hypothetical, but as the most pressing question of our technological age. What happens when we delegate more of our world, our loans, our healthcare, our justice, our truth, to a system that is fundamentally, unescapably programmed to perfect and perpetuate our historical flaws? What happens when the cognitive bias engine becomes the engine of our civilization?
Welcome to Future Vision Talks. I'm Jordan, and today we stare into the flawed mirror. Hello, and a profound welcome to you. I'm Jordan. If that opening left you with a sense of unease, a dissonance between the promise of our technology and the reality we just glimpsed, then we're starting in the right place. That discomfort is the compass needle pointing true north for this discussion. Often, in popular culture, we frame AI as the other. It's the sleek robot, the omniscient voice from the ceiling, the alien intelligence arriving from the stars. It's something that happens to us, an external force. This framing is comforting. It allows us to be the heroes, the victims, or the conquerors in our own story. But it is a dangerous fiction.
The reality is far more intimate and far more challenging. The AI we are creating is, at its core, an extractive industry. It mines the most abundant resource of the 21st century, human experience digitized. Every status update, every centuries-old novel digitized by a project like Gutenberg, every court transcript, every medical journal, every Hollywood film, every meme from 4chan, and every peer-reviewed paper from Archive, all of it, the sublime and the grotesque, the profound and the profane, is fed into the furnace of machine learning. The AI's task is not to understand this material in the human sense. Its task is statistical, to find patterns, correlations, and probabilities within this ocean of us. And therein lies the heart of the matter. We are not feeding it pure information. We are feeding it human-processed information. Information already filtered through our limited senses, our cultural contexts, our historical inequalities, and yes, our cognitive biases, the systematic errors in thinking that evolution baked into our brains to ensure quick survival, not fair or perfect truth. So today, we embark on a journey into the heart of this inheritance. We will move beyond the headline-grabbing examples of image bias or toxic chatbots. We will dissect the very mechanism, what I'm calling the cognitive bias engine. We will trace how a specific, well-documented flaw in human cognition gets transcribed into lines of code, becomes embedded in a model with billions of parameters, and then re-emerges into our world with the quiet, impersonal power of an algorithm making 1 million micro-decisions a second. We will see it at work in your social media feed, in the courtroom, in the hospital, and in the global financial system. This is not a dystopian future. This is a diagnostic present. Our goal is not to inspire fear for fear's sake, but to foster a clear-eyed understanding. Because you cannot debug a system, you cannot steer a technology, you cannot govern a force that you do not first comprehend. So let us comprehend. Let us break down how the mirror was made, why its reflection is distorted, and what, if anything, we can do about it, before the cracks become the foundation. To understand the cognitive bias engine, we must start by dismantling its power source, a myth. The myth of the neutral machine. The illusion of objectivity, unpacking the black box. We look at a supercomputer, a sleek server farm, a line of elegant code implementing a complex mathematical formula like a neural network. We see cold steel, silent silicon, and pristine logic. We see the absence of a human heartbeat, a human emotion, a human agenda. And so we impute to it the ultimate virtue of our age, objectivity. We think this is logic, pure and simple. Math doesn't lie. This is our first, and perhaps most catastrophic, cognitive error projected onto our creation. We are succumbing to what we might call the apophenia of algorithm, the human tendency to see meaningful, objective patterns in random or processed data, especially when that data comes from a source we perceive as authoritative. Let's be unequivocal. An AI model has no innate objectivity. It has no concept of fairness, justice, or truth in the human sense. It has parameters and a loss function. The parameters are the knobs and dials of the model. The loss function is its single, defining, ruthless purpose, a mathematical score it is designed to minimize. Think of it this way. If you train an AI to recognize cats by showing it millions of pictures labeled cat, its loss function is essentially the penalty for being wrong about a cat. It tweaks its parameters endlessly to reduce that penalty. Its truth is whatever configuration of pixels most often correlates with the human-applied label cat in this specific dataset. Now, scale that up. You are not training a cat recognizer. You are training a human world simulator. Your dataset is the digital corpus of human civilization. Your loss function might be predict the next word in a sentence for a language model, or maximize user engagement for a social media recommender, or minimize default risk for a loan approval algorithm. Here is where the black box problem becomes a moral black hole. We see the input, a loan application. We see the output, denied. The AI has processed thousands of data points: income, zip code, transaction history, web browsing behavior, social connections. It has run them through its billions of tuned parameters, a process so complex not even its engineers can fully trace the reasoning. It outputs a score. The bank trusts the score. The applicant is rejected. We call it a black box because the internal decision-making process is opaque. But the greater danger is the white coat effect we assign it to it. Just as we trust a doctor in a white coat, we trust the output of a complex algorithm because it wears the white coat of mathematics. We assume its process, because it is digital and complex, must be more objective than a tired, biased human loan officer. But what if the loss function, minimize default risk, is being optimized on historical loan data from the 1980s, when redlining and discriminatory lending practices were rampant? The AI will ingeniously, mercilessly discover that zip code is a fantastic predictor of default risk because historically, people in those zip codes were systemically denied opportunities to build credit. The AI isn't being racist. It is being flawlessly logical. It has found a correlation in the data it was given. It has inherited the ghost of historical racism and codified it into a 21st century mathematical formula. The black box isn't hiding malice. It is hiding a perfect student's perfect replication of our imperfect past. This is the core of the illusion. We have outsourced authority to the machine, believing it to be a neutral arbiter, when in fact we have outsourced it to a frozen, amplified snapshot of our own prior decisions and societal structures. The machine's objectivity is a reflection of our own historical lack of it. Human data, human flaws, the dataset of dichotomies. To understand the inheritance, we must audit the estate. What is in this vast dataset we call human knowledge? It is a record of dichotomies. It contains the Declaration of Independence and the ledgers of the transatlantic slave trade. It contains the works of Marie Curie and centuries of medical texts that dismissed female hysteria. It contains photos of the first man on the moon and newsreels that consistently portrayed certain nations as villains or caricatures. It contains every beautiful love poem and every piece of hateful propaganda ever digitized.
The AI does not read these with moral judgment. It reads them as tokens, vectors, statistical relationships. It learns that the word doctor co-occurs with he, his, and doctor, a title, far more often than with she and her, in literature pre-1990. It learns that words describing domestic roles have higher feminine associations. It learns that words about violence have stronger associations with certain ethnicities, not because it's true, but because our crime reporting and our entertainment have, for generations, presented it that way. A seminal 2017 study from researchers at Princeton and Bath demonstrated this starkly. They used a standard AI technique called word embeddings, where words are mapped as points in a multi-dimensional space based on their context. They found that in these AI models, European American names were associated with more pleasant feelings than African American names. Woman was closer to homemaker and arts, while man was closer to professional and science. The AI had learned the gendered and racial stereotypes embedded in billions of words of text from the internet. This is not a bug. It is a direct, measurable consequence of the training process. The AI is a compression algorithm for culture. And when you compress something, you lose nuance, you lose context, you lose counter-narratives. What gets preserved are the strongest, most frequent signals. And throughout much of human recorded history, the strongest signals have been patriarchal, Eurocentric, and shaped by power imbalances. Our data set is also chronologically snobbish. It contains vastly more data from the recent digital explosion post-1990s than from all prior human history combined. This means our AI models have an overwhelming bias toward the sensibilities, language, and trends of the early 21st century Internet, a place not exactly renowned for its measured discourse, balanced perspectives, or psychological well-being. So, the AI inherits not just our ancient biases, but our most recent neuroses, amplified by the dynamics of virality and engagement. It learns that extreme statements get more attention, that controversy drives interaction, that simplistic tribal narratives spread faster than complex, nuanced ones. The cognitive bias engine is fed a diet of our best and worst, but its optimization function often rewards it for learning the worst most efficiently. Now, let's move from the abstract to the specific. Let's put the cognitive bias engine on the operating table and see how individual human cognitive biases get translated into silicon. We'll examine three key mechanisms: confirmation bias, availability heuristic, and in-group, out-group bias. Confirmation bias, the feedback loop of belief. Confirmation bias is our tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information that confirms or strengthens our pre-existing beliefs. It's the mental immune system that protects our worldview from contradictory facts. Now, consider the most powerful AI that touches your life every day: the recommendation engine. Whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, or Amazon,
Its loss function is brutally simple. Maximize engagement. Keep the user scrolling, watching, clicking. This is not a secret. This is its prime directive. How does it achieve this? By becoming the most sophisticated confirmation bias engine ever devised. You watch one video questioning climate change, the AI's sole purpose is to predict what you will click on next. Its model, trained on the behavior of millions, knows that a user who clicked on video A has a statistically higher probability of clicking on video B if it shares similar thematic and ideological markers. It doesn't care about truth, it cares about probability. It serves you video B, then C, then D. Before long, you are in a filter bubble or a rabbit hole, a universal informational universe perfectly tailored to confirm your initial curiosity or suspicion. The AI has externalized and automated your confirmation bias. It offloads the work of seeking confirming evidence from your brain to a server farm, which performs the task with godlike efficiency. Your worldview is not challenged. It is reinforced, pixel by pixel, video by video, with a precision no human conversation could match. This has seismic implications. It doesn't just polarize politics. It creates alternative epistemic realities. For a user on one path, the AI constructs a reality where vaccines are dangerous. For another, a reality where they are miraculous. Both users are being served by the same objective, amoral logic, the logic of engagement-based correlation. The AI is not lying. It is mirroring and amplifying our tribal tendency to seek comfort in the familiar, and selling that comfort back to us to keep our attention.
Imagine the availability heuristic, judging the world by its digital shadow. The availability heuristic is our mental shortcut where we judge the likelihood or importance of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. Plane crashes feel more common than car crashes because they are more dramatic and newsworthy, even though they are statistically far rarer. Now, inject this into an AI system used for predictive policing or risk assessment. A city deploys an algorithm to predict where crime will occur. How is it trained? On historical crime data, arrest reports, 911 calls. This data is not a map of crime. It is a map of reported crime and police activity. It is profoundly shaped by decades of policing policy. If a neighborhood has been over-policed due to systemic bias, it will have a higher volume of arrest data. More arrests lead to more data points. More data points tell the AI this is a high crime zone. The AI, using the availability heuristic codified as statistics, then tells police to allocate more resources to that same neighborhood. More patrols lead to more arrests for both major and minor offenses, generating even more data, which confirms the algorithm's initial prediction. This is a digital feedback loop of injustice. The algorithm confuses availability of data with probability of crime. It takes the visible, recorded shadow of past bias and projects it as the future. We saw this play out devastatingly in the 2016 investigation of the Compass algorithm used in U.S. courtrooms to assess a defendant's risk of recidivism. A study by ProPublica found it was nearly twice as likely to falsely flag black defendants as future criminals compared to white defendants, while being more likely to falsely label white defendants as low risk. Why? Because the historical data it was trained on, who gets arrested, who gets charged, who gets convicted, was itself the product of a racially biased system. The availability of negative outcomes for one group was higher in the data, so the AI learned to associate membership in that group with higher risk. It perfected the prejudice of the past. In-group, out-group bias, the tribal logic of classification. This bias leads us to favor people we perceive as part of our in-group and view those in out-groups with more suspicion or less empathy. It's the root of tribalism, from sports teams to nationalism. AI, through the process of classification, automates and hardens this bias. Facial recognition technology provides the clearest, most visceral example. For years, studies from MIT, the NIST, and others have consistently shown that these systems perform with starkly different accuracy rates across demographics. They are typically most accurate on lighter-skinned male faces and least accurate on darker-skinned female faces. Why?
The training data sets were overwhelmingly composed of faces from certain demographics, often researchers and employees of the tech companies, which lacked diversity. The in-group for the AI was literally the face it saw most often. The out-group faces were statistical outliers in its training data. When asked to classify them, its confidence plummets, its error rates soar. But the implications go far beyond misidentification. When an AI is used for automated resume screening, it learns to pattern match for successful hires from the past. If a company's past hiring was dominated by, say, Ivy League graduates from certain backgrounds who played certain sports, the AI will learn to weigh those features heavily. It creates a digital proxy for the in-group. Candidates from non-traditional backgrounds who might be brilliant but don't share those specific signifiers, the out-group, are filtered out before a human ever sees their application. The AI doesn't hate them, it has simply learned the tribal markings of the existing tribe and is now the gatekeeper, ensuring the tribe's continuity with inhuman efficiency.
These are not three separate flaws. They are interconnected gears in the cognitive bias engine. A recommendation engine, confirmation bias, can feed a user content that makes a certain group seem more threatening, amplifying outgroup bias, which makes negative news about that group more mentally available, shaping their perception of risk, which in turn could influence their support for policies that lead to over-policing in those communities, generating the biased data that feeds the predictive algorithm, availability heuristic. The engine is self-reinforcing. We're building a world where our innate cognitive flaws are not just present, they are institutionalized, automated, scaled, and given the unassailable authority of an algorithm. The philosophical and moral weight of this is almost unbearable. We must ask, in our quest to remove human error from decision-making, have we simply found a way to freeze and mass-produce the sum total of human historical error, while removing the one thing that might correct it? Human empathy, conscience, and the capacity for moral growth? A human judge, seeing a flawed pattern in their own rulings, can have a crisis of conscience, can seek education, can change. An AI, locked into its loss function and its training data, cannot. It can only optimize. And if we ask it to optimize for efficiency, profit, or engagement within a flawed system, it will become the perfect catalyst for that system's flaws.
So here we stand, you and I, before the flawed mirror. We have seen how it's made. We have seen the cracks in the glass, not as defects, but as the very features of its design, tracing the thought lines of our own history and thought. We are at an inflection point, not of technology, but of responsibility. The cognitive bias engine is running. It is in the courthouse, the hospital, the hiring office, and in the palm of your hand. It is shaping what we see, what we believe, and increasingly, what opportunities we have.
This is not a call to dismantle AI. That is neither possible nor desirable. Its potential for good, from drug discovery to climate modeling, is staggering. This is a call for radical clarity, for ethical vigilance, and for a profound shift in perspective. We must stop seeing AI as an oracle to be obeyed and start seeing it for what it is, the most powerful fossil record of human thought ever created, one that is dangerously animate. Our task is not just to fix the AI with technical patches, though we must. It is to consciously, deliberately, and courageously curate the inheritance.
This means auditing data sets for representational justice. It means designing loss functions that optimize for fairness and human flourishing, not just engagement or profit. It means building glass box models where decisions can be explained. It means having ethicists and sociologists at the table with engineers from day one. It means, as citizens and consumers, demanding algorithmic accountability. And so, I leave you with the central, haunting question that this entire exploration circles. It's a question for developers, for policymakers, and for every one of us who interacts with these systems. If our artificial intelligence is an inescapable mirror of our own collective cognition, flaws and all, does the path to a better, fairer AI necessarily require us to first build a better, fairer ourselves? Are we, in the end, the only bug that can't be patched from the outside, and the only source code that truly matters? If this deep dive shifted your perspective, if it connected dots you felt but hadn't named, then please give this video a like. That simple signal helps this conversation reach others who need to be part of it. Share it on your social feeds, in your work chats, with friends, over coffee. We need to democratize this understanding. And if you believe that staring into these difficult truths is necessary to navigate the future with wisdom, then subscribe to Future Vision Talks and hit the notification bell. We are committed to these deep, foundational explorations because the future won't be built by those who look away from the flawed mirror, but by those who have the courage to see it clearly, understand its mechanics, and decide what reflection we choose to create next. Thank you for your time, your intellect, and your humanity. I'm Jordan. Until next time, keep your vision clear and your thinking deep.